Orthodox Unscripted with Elissa Davis. I'm here with Brandi Willis Schreiber, who's just one of my favorite people. Hi, Brandi. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Elissa. Thank you for having me on your brand new show. It's so exciting.
I'm so glad you came on the show. You and I met at the Ancient Faith Writing Conference years ago. When was that? What year was that? It was like
2019.
right?
I think it was the Ancient Faith content creators. I think we met maybe more in the airport on the way home.
Yes, we were hanging out on the bus and in the airport. That's true.
We shared a table or two in
Yeah,
the airport airports on the way home.
that's right. And it was such a cool conference. They don't do them anymore. But it was, cultivating writers and you got together with existing writers and new writers, and everyone it was cool. I always just found it so energizing. And I felt like we would come out of there with a million ideas and like wanting to collaborate with everybody for different things. And it was neat. But I remember we were talking that day and you were like, well, I have an idea for a book. And I was like, yes, write the book, because it was such a good idea. As I recall, tell me, what was the idea originally and what did it like develop into as you wrote it? Because it came out a little bit, I think, different a little bit. It was neat because it was kind of like a memoir, right? Like, how did it work out?
It was the Mary book, wasn't it?
Right? Yeah, it was. Long Walk with Mary.
Yes, A Long Walk with Mary, A Personal Search for the Mother of God was the final title, and Ancient Faith published it in 2021.
That's good. I don't always remember my final titles because there's always like a long tag, and I'm I know the first three words.
Yeah, so that came out in 2021, right after I had my baby. My one and only baby, and it's been a blur since then.
I bet.
But it was a good experience and has been a lovely and wonderful experience. And I'm so grateful that happened that way and that everything kind of came together and the timing was right.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was a neat book too. I mean, because it was it's about Mary. It's like getting to know Mary, which I think when Cradle Orthodox people hear us say that, it sounds odd. But it's like, you grow up outside the church. I always say it's almost like we're suspicious of Mary. Like we're like concerned we could be distracted by her. We might be misled. We might be confused and forget how to worship God and just worship her or something. All these, things that now to me seem probably not as dangerous as they did when I was a teenager,
Yes, very much. I think a lot of misunderstanding about what that means to honor, the Mother of God. And so that book was actually a year I spent, well, the final project was a year I spent journaling about that very topic and exploring it and trying to face it, because I'd been Orthodox for 10 years and had never quite gotten comfortable with Mary. And I had to finally face that and was forced to face that in my life for a lot of different reasons, which I discuss in the book. But
well, it was really, it was fortuitous, right? You're writing this book about the Mother of God, and then you have all this stuff going on with your mom, and then you find that you're going to be a mother yourself. And it was just like, wow,
crazy.
That's remarkable that God would have all of that come together during the 1 year when you happened to be writing about it. It was neat. Neat. He does things like that. He does.
Yes. Like that. He's going to work it all out for his glory, most definitely.
Yeah. And I love the book. I was thinking about you and you had been so excited to be pregnant, to be having a child. And now I get to watch you here and there on social media, raising him. And he's just such a sweetheart, and you seem to be just so joyful, and things seem to be going really well. How's it going?
Well, I've never done this before, so every day is like brand new. But my little boy he's 5 years old now, and he is all little boy. We're talking Brazilian jiu-jitsu, chopping me every day, and run. I mean, it's like, can I say toot jokes on here? It's like all the little boy jokes that they make, and and I'm like, where did it come from? But it's like it's innate or something, and it's just coming out in all of these glorious little boy ways. But he's also really, really sweet and has the most gentle heart, and he's funny and he's smart. And I'm sure everybody says that about their kids. They should say it about their kids, how wonderful they are. But he really is the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's just God's mercy working in my life in this crazy way. Like I still can't believe that I'm a mom and I wake up every day and that this is what I get to do. Because I had him late. I was 39 when we had our little boy. And so I'm almost 45 years old and I feel like I'm just getting to start over in life, which is wonderful. It
It is
just
wonderful. It is. You know, it's funny because now I'm 52 now, and I have felt like in my 40s it was sort of like another chapter started, and then 50s. I feel like here and there new chapters really do open up in life, like whether it's, something huge like that or not, it can really feel like that, and it's sort of beautiful. I didn't expect to have this sense of like starting all new things and growing in new ways as a grown up, right? I figured, I was 23, I was like done with that, now
Yeah.
the old old hat.
Yes, thank goodness that we don't stay stagnant or that God doesn't force us to stay stagnant because I can't imagine, you know, if I was sticking with what I had been doing in my 20s and 30s, I would be going crazy right now,
Right,
probably. So
right.
he's always giving us something new to work with and to contemplate and to integrate into our lives. His mercies are new every day. And so that goes along with what we do, our vocation and our calling.
Yes. So, so you feel like your vocation, your calling is writing. I do too. And but I know for me, I wanted to write. I didn't know what to write. I didn't really have anything I needed to write. And I just kind of waited. I just waited. And then one day it was like, oh, I think I'm supposed to do that. And then it comes along. I don't really work out what book I'll write next. I just wait. I
Yeah.
listen to what God has to say. How are you sort of handling your vocation in your life? How do you figure out when it's time to write something, and how do you know what to write? And
Ooh, that's a good question. And you know, I actually just finished reading a really good book called You Have a Calling, Finding the Good, True, and Beautiful in Your Life. And it's actually by a woman named Karen Swallow Prior. So some people might be familiar with her. But she wrote this really lovely contemplation on what it means to have a calling. And she talks in that book a lot about how your calling and your vocation isn't necessarily your job that you get paid to do, which I think is
right.
often misunderstood, especially in our culture. But it's
Yeah.
whatever you're called to do at that particular time in your life. And so we have different vocations and callings that come to us. And I never would have thought or known or understood that my vocation or calling for a period of my life, wouldn't begin until I was in my 40s, was to be a mom, right? And so I think when it comes to writing, it's like what you said, kind of what you experience is I go along with whatever life is offering me. And I think a lot about it and I think, I think I'm supposed to be learning something from this or taking something from this, or let me work with this concept or idea for a little bit. And then it turns into something beautiful. And I think we're always given those opportunities every day. And so there might not be some big giant project or ultimate literary success that I have in mind, but I try to write from the experience and the perspective of wherever I am at that point in life. And that's how the Mary book came about. I got to write a few, like you did, I got to write a few pieces for the Behold a Great Light, uh,
Right.
the Nativity devotional that Ancient Faith did, and
Yes.
that was a wonderful opportunity.
Behold a Great Light. That was a beautiful nativity devotional. How did they approach you about that? Did you just get an email? Did you volunteer? How did,
They emailed me. Yeah,
yeah.
they emailed me and asked me if I would provide some devotionals for that, and I was so grateful because I loved getting to write on the incarnation in those pieces. It felt like a lot of pressure because I was
Yes.
worried what I was up against with other people who may have known
Okay.
more than
Like it's
me.
a competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel
But
like it, right? I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, Father Stephen Freeman's going to be writing, and then mine text is going to be right next to his, and they're going to be reading all this real smart stuff, and then they're going to hit
woo,
my stuff and go, oh, this week is kind of light. But no, I know what you mean. It felt like you wanted to be worthy of the company, and it was really an impressive crowd.
yeah,
And me too, just out of nowhere, I got an email and I was like, oh, thank you for thinking of me.
right.
It was neat, and they were just beautiful. She had
Yes,
beautiful ideas for prompts and different hymns to write about, and it was
yeah.
lovely.
I
I like
I really liked that experience. And and we have to be careful not to denigrate our own areas of expertise. You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not talking from the perspective of someone who's some fantastical, highly successful writer, but I am writing and talking about this experience from the perspective of someone who has dignity with it, just
Yes.
because
I
I know
like that.
I talk about this in the Mary book, but haven't been to seminary. I'm an ordinary person in the world doing my thing, trying my best. But like you, want to be a writer because that is the vocation at which I feel I've been called to. And so we bring to it the best that we absolutely can with our own experience and our own background and our own love and our own devotion. And that is worthy. And that's worthy work for
It
anybody
is.
at any place. And
Right.
so,
Well, and we can't have everything written by the same kind of person with the
right.
same kind of everybody has the exact same degree. They're all perfectly prepared. It has to be a variety. It has to be a
Yes.
diversity of voices, and in the church, in many ways, it has to be a diversity, and in the world.
Yes.
And it's so much more beautiful. And it's true. A lot of times, you'll hear people say, I think especially, writers like us, who are like, I'm a mom, I just started writing. But it is actually a really valid and interesting perspective. And it's those experiences you have as a mom, or like, I don't know, working at Texas Tech or whatever, those are your experiences. They're different than someone else's perspective and different from their experience. And it's valuable. It's
Yes.
helpful to have different people
Yes.
involved in
Everyone's
those.
experience is valuable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's still intimidating to have your
Yes.
name.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Still thinking like, okay, I'm gonna have to sound smart when I write this. Like, but
You have
I,
to yes.
I've always felt kind of like part of my calling has been to write books about the faith, but sort of taking like more interesting theological topics or something and trying to translate it down to like practical application, everyday life, and sort of normal language and normal people, and
Yeah.
just I'm not called to write theology. I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I like to speak really simply, and I love it when I can reach someone who thinks that they're not interested in those topics or not
Yes.
deep enough for that stuff. And then you start talking about it, they're like, oh yeah, I think about that all the time. It's like, see, you are
Yes.
kind of deep. Like you really, I think it's a lovely thing.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
it's better that we're not all seminary professors writing textbooks.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be. I want to write from the perspective of my little corner of the world, and the viewpoint that I have and the perspective I have of my little life here is important. I mean, I think sometimes it can be hard, especially as an Orthodox woman, to find voices to which you can relate, especially in lay people writing. And I read very widely. I don't just read in Orthodox the Orthodox vein. I'm always reading Catholic writers or evangelical writers. I'm curious and I want to know what people have to say because there's truth and beauty in all of these places. And so I want to be able to reach readers like that as well. Of course, our work with Orthodox writing is important because we want to specifically speak to the faith. But if we're able to reach someone outside of the faith, that's a jewel. And so I hope that the way I write and the topics that I cover and the way that I write about my faith appeals or at least intrigues people from different backgrounds because, that's just what I hope.
Yeah. No, I agree. In fact, my last book, I was trying to, when I would talk about saints, I was trying not to say the word saint before their name. I would just say, John the evangelist or like, Peter. And Ancient Faith wanted to put the saint back in it. And I was like, oh, could we not just in case? Because I like the idea of appealing to someone who's not tied into that yet. And plus, we're talking about a person. It's okay to just use their name if you talk about, like, to say, I don't know how to say it. I would use saint somewhere in the title or somewhere in a reference, but not constantly, right? Like to sometimes just say John. And they were saying, they were like, we have tried to do this with Orthodox books and we don't necessarily get a lot of non-Orthodox readership anyway. So, and I know what they mean. because I have in fact I've written before, and Protestant friends would get really excited and they'd be like, take it to this Protestant publisher or family Christian store or something. And you go and you talk, they're all excited. And then they're like, oh, what denomination are you? When they say Orthodox, it's like, when they hear Orthodox, it's all done. Like the conversation's over. They're like, oh, you're going to have saints and Mary. Goodbye. I think Catholic, not so much. Right. But so I was really hoping to be able to speak into that crowd as well, because so many people I love and my family and just so many good people,
Yes.
Yeah. Have you found that you get readership outside the church?
I think I have. I have been really blessed by friends and family and acquaintances that, I mean, are not Orthodox, that are curious. I think they might just be more curious about what it was that I wrote. What do you do? But yes, and I mean, in my life, I have way more friends and acquaintances that are not Orthodox than I do that are Orthodox.
Right.
Very, very dear friends that are Orthodox, but my larger social circle is mostly not Orthodox. And so, I think that's just part of being a convert, but also I have friends and family from all different, areas of life, and belief systems or not belief systems. And so, I think I have had quite a few people who have read at least the Mary book that are not Orthodox. And I've had a lot of really great friends and even friends and coworkers of my husband who've told me that they've read it and thought it was really interesting. And so I'm grateful for that, and I hope more people might be open to it, because especially the Mary book, I was very careful in there to not denigrate anything about my background of being Protestant, because I do not feel that way. I'm grateful for those roots, and it's always going to hold a special place in my heart. I would not be a Christian and I wouldn't be Orthodox if I hadn't grown up Church of Christ. And so it was not about denigrating the lack of reverence to her, but it was about understanding the greater reverence that we have for her in the Orthodox Church and what it allows me to do by being Orthodox to understand her better. And so I hope that when people read the Mary book, that they get a sense of that there wasn't supposed to be anything in there that was harsh or, unkind about my background or experience being Protestant, but it was just the reality that I didn't have, there isn't any revelation of her in that background. And so, yeah, so I think I have. What about you? Do you ever get anybody who tells you that they've read your books?
Sometimes I do. And I think people have found it I also try not to denigrate anything, because I agree, this is how we got here, right? Thank God. And honestly, I know a lot of really wonderful Christians who are very Christian and very faithful and live beautiful lives and are not in the Orthodox Church. I think, as you said, because you're a cradle, we grew up with Protestant people. Our family was, of course, we didn't have like a Greek family where everybody's Greek. We hardly know anyone outside the circle, right? But yeah, I think if you can handle it like this, and we can sort of respect, like truly, not just sound like we respect, but really respect the fact that the faith has other forms, and that it's also true that it's not like there are people who rejected Orthodoxy, right? They weren't like Orthodox people who decided, we're going to throw all that out. This is the faith that we've received, and this is what we have, and we're all doing beautiful things with it. Thank God, and God's doing beautiful things with it. But I think that's right. I think every once in a while, you'll hear, especially, YouTube or whatever, you find people who are converts. I think usually more recent converts who are kind of upset about their history. And I think it's sad,
Yes.
It's too bad, but I think most people grow out of it. I think I remember feeling, maybe like frustrated that I hadn't known a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing as angry, right? Like it's not, it's like, I mean, do you go to algebra class and say, I never understood quadratic equations and I'm so mad about it, like, no, we just
didn't nobody teach me this.
What's wrong with my family?
The teacher didn't know. Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
I think that is a very common occurrence and feeling. I mean, I remember when we were newly Orthodox, and I say we, with including my husband, there was that really like zealous, first year or two, and you finally get to do all of this stuff, and you finally get to participate in the fasting seasons and the feasts and all the services and all the meaning, and read all the books that you didn't know that existed, and you're educating yourself to catch up on the entire church's history that you didn't have access to or didn't know about. But then you hit the wall, or at least when we talk to people who are new, because my husband's a deacon at our church here in Lubbock, our advice is always slow down. you know, Enjoy this wonderful new season in which you're experiencing the faith for the first time. You get to do all this, but slow down because you're going to hit a wall at some point, and you probably are going to hit a crisis. And that is natural. You're riding a roller coaster of this wonderful new experience and everything that it brings with it. But then when everything settles, you're still left with the fact that you have to love your family, and you've got to figure out how to pray, and you're still going to dislike your boss, or you're still going to fight with your kids, or you're still not going to know how to get over this issue with your spouse. That's where the work of the faith actually begins to take shape. And so the church gives us all of these beautiful tools and all of these resources to help us with the fact that we're in the mud in the small little bits of our daily lives. That's where the faith actually happens. And so it's hard to understand that until you've been Orthodox for a while and you've gone through that. But
it really is. It really is. It's almost like infatuation, right? Like you're just excited about the rituals and all these things that, like you said, you didn't get to do them before. And for me, I know growing up, I always felt like there should be more. I remember I knew a woman who was Orthodox Jewish, and she had all these, she was kosher, and she didn't, after sunset, she didn't leave the house on Fridays and things. And I remember just thinking so often, gosh, I wish God hadn't just dropped all that stuff out of Christianity. Like, why can't we still do some of these things? And I think a lot of Christians think that around here, because there are a lot of Americans who are like, I'm going to start doing Jewish stuff because we need these traditions. And it's like, oh, it's too bad you don't know there's actually like a Christian evolution of all these things.
Yes.
But it's such a joy when you get into it and you just think I don't know, it's like infatuation. It takes a while before you realize, like, oh, this relationship's going to be hard work. Like,
yes, it's a lot harder than you think.
you have your first fight or something starts going wrong, and you're like, okay, this is the part where they said marriage was hard, right? Or where the spiritual life is hard. It's a lot of work, but it's beautiful, and thank God, in Orthodoxy, we have all this support for it and all these tools to get through it. It's wonderful. I love it.
Me too.
So, Brandi, are you still writing? What have you been doing? You wrote Long Walk with Mary, and then the Advent devotionals.
Yes.
What else? What have you been doing?
Well, two things. I have my first children's book is coming out this summer with Ancient Faith, and I am so excited because I feel like okay, so we were talking about calling and vocation earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has been your experience, but I have tried to write, and I'm interested in writing in so many different areas, and I've tried so many different things over the years that I kind of feel like I'm always trying to figure out, well, what's the best thing that I do? What do I really want to do the most? And for a long, long time, it has been write children's books. Because I love children's books. We read at my house voraciously, especially since we had my son. Right. And I have probably a notebook that has at least 100 different children's books ideas, a lot of them for children's books that we need from the Orthodox perspective, because lots of other traditions have children's books that are written from their religious perspectives, and we need more of those. So I have a lot of those ready. Well, I've got a book coming out with Ancient Faith this summer, and I'm super excited about it. I'm not going to give you all the details yet because they haven't released like officially the title and everything, but it is a short chapter book, a very short chapter book on a 7th century saint and in northern England. and his experience of establishing his bishopric see, his evangelism in northern England. And so you
Oh,
can do a
cool.
Google search and figure out if you can figure out what saint that is.
Those are your
But,
clues everyone go. So
um,
cool.
but I
That's
wrote it for
really
my
neat.
son. I started it as a picture book because I wanted him to have something from me about his saint. Um, so that
Oh,
he would have something, if something ever happened to me someday, he'd have something in my own words about, why we chose his saint for him and what that means. So I did it as a picture book and I turned it into Ancient Faith. And Jane Meyer, the wonderful children's editor there, said, I really like this, but picture books are hard for lots of different reasons. And so would you be interested in changing this into a chapter book? I was like, oh, okay. Because if you've ever taken a book and changed it into something completely different, that's a huge task.
yeah.
It might sound like it's not, but you're basically rewriting a book.
You
So,
really are. But you're also fighting like to try to keep something that you love that you wrote for a picture book and it
yes,
has to morph. It has to be something different. But it's
yes,
like a longer, more difficult process because you've got these attachments to sentences that don't
exactly.
fit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Gosh.
need more chapter books about
Yeah.
saints in the Orthodox Church. We just need
Mhm.
more Orthodox children's book,
That's right.
period. And so I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it will be received well when it comes out this summer. And there'll be a lot more announcements and things that I'll share too. But I'm
Oh,
hoping maybe I'll get to do another one. We'll see.
I hope. I hope.
We'll
Well,
see.
I mean, it's such a good topic there because you think about like, let's say it's in middle school or something, how helpful it is for a little Orthodox kid to sort of understand and marinate in this idea that, oh, there was Orthodoxy in England. Like there was a bishop there.
Yes.
There was evangelism. Like my history,
There's
even if
always
I'm not
been.
Greek or I'm not, maybe I'm British, my
Yes.
English family, there it's Orthodox too. And it's
Yes.
and of course
Yes.
it is Orthodox too,
Yeah.
but
The
it's
Celtic saints and
something you
yep.
don't really know until one day you're like, wait a minute, and it just clicks, right? And so how nice to be the one who made it click for all those kids. That's great.
Well, and the saints give, especially for children, such wonderful examples. And this, I dare say, this chapter book's not like a lot of other books. It's different. The way I wrote it is different. The language is different.
Really?
The focus and pacing, I wish I could tell you more, but my background is in
Mm,
poetry. And so I think that it has a lot of poetic imagery and a lot of challenge actually for um, a story about a saint. It's told from a perspective of the place in which he established his see and his work and the place from which he did all of his evangelism and not the other way around. Haven't really seen something like that. And so I hope that that's well received. But I want to do a lot to offer families and churches and children and teachers resources that might get them more engaged with the book when it comes out. So I'm working on when final edits come in, I'm doing a vocabulary list that's going to be free for people to get from me. I'm going to do some like little lesson plans that you can do for free, some
oh, that's
additional
cool.
reading resources, just some free resources that
Right.
people can get to just bolster their experience with the book because we like to read books and we like to do stuff with the books, a
Right.
recipe or a craft or let's look at the
Yeah.
map. So things like that to just make it more
Right.
educational too for people who read it. So
Right. Well, and for kids, it brings it to life, right? It comes off
yes,
the pages and it becomes so much more memorable and so much more well incorporated into their imagination and their understanding. That's so
exactly.
cool.
So
So you like poetry? You're a poet?
that was my background training in grad school. I would
Oh,
not call
cool.
myself a good poet.
I didn't say
Poetry,
good poet. I just said poet.
it
Yeah, I was,
gave me a fantastic foundation for language and pacing and the sound of
yeah.
language and the beauty of language and the weight and value of individual words. It was the best, I think, for anybody who's a creative writer to really dig into poetry is a fantastic way to improve your skill and your craft. And I had some fantastic professors when I was in grad school here at Texas Tech. And so that is really the foundation from which I do all of my writing. It's like, how does it sound? I read my stuff out loud all the time. I really labor over sentences and word choice and, you know, conveying mystery, using meter, maybe unexpectedly, even in my prose.
Right.
All of those things I just have a lot of fun with. And so I'm grateful for that background because I think it made me the writer that I am. I mean, it's definitely part of my voice, I think.
I'm sure. Absolutely. It's interesting. You could consider writing about Saint Brendan, the navigator, next.
Well, Ancient Faith just released a graphic novel about
that's right. But there's a presbytera in my church who's very intelligent, well-educated. She has written books on this. There's like a Latin educational text that they were using to teach. She thinks, her theory is, this was used to teach children Latin, like a primer. It was the story of Saint Brendan. It's in Latin, but it's a poem.
Oh.
And it's really cool. I'm going to have to show you some stuff about it. It's really neat. You're just thinking about like poetry and saints' lives in England and all this. It's kind of like, oh. And it's really, she's written a lot about it, and it's really neat. I'll show you. It's cool.
I love stuff like that.
That's the kind of thing that that just needs to be more out there because it's so cool. Okay. But she's great. We sit at coffee hour talking about it sometimes, and just she'll tell me about it, and she's going, well, and then I can't even remember the words she uses because she starts talking about it like in a really scholarly way about Latin and the construction of Latin, but I don't speak Latin. Yeah. So it's just funny because I'm like, wow, President, that's really cool, but I actually don't know quite what you mean, but I'm here enough to appreciate that this is neat. Like, this is really neat. But that's enough sometimes.
Maybe we can learn Latin next.
Right?
I would like to learn Gaelic.
Right? I mean, it's never too late, right? That's been my excitement about figuring out like sort of my midlife years is, you know what? I'm still excited about things. I'm still finding new things. I'm still learning things. I'm not tired. I'm not like exhausted. I don't want to do anything. I'm just having a great time. I'm coming up with all kinds of interesting things to learn.
You should. This is the calling of all people. Yes, we should continue to learn and love learning and love life, especially. That's
Absolutely.
what God wants for us. Absolutely.
So tell me, you said one of the things is there something else you're writing?
Well, I jumped on the Substack bandwagon a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so I did I have a Substack, which is where I moved my newsletter. And so I have one, but I haven't been writing on it very consistently lately because I've just been inundated with this 5-year-old jujitsu creature and all of his energy and, needs and everything. And so but I do have on Substack a series of devotionals that I wrote, and they're from perspectives of just regular old life here in West Texas, what I observe in motherhood and nature, especially, and that kind of thing. And so those are on there. They used to be behind a paywall, but I just stopped all of that because I couldn't provide people what I felt like they deserved, for paying. And so that's all free on there. And then there's some longer essays on there too. I've done some essays on St. Anthony the Great. I've done some just personal essays on grief and the faith and things like that. And so
wow.
I try to do things that are a little bit more creative or literary on there. That just gives me a space to play with those things. But you can check it out. You can just look for Brandi Willis Schreiber on Substack. And my Substack is called Writing from the Desert Places. So if you Google that's on there, but I haven't done a piece on there.
I'll put it in the show notes too, so people can find it. Because really, Brandi, when you're saying, meditations about nature and stuff, as you know, one of my very favorite things about your writing is the way that you write about nature in Lubbock, Texas.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that.
I don't think we think of Lubbock as a place with like a lot of neat wildlife and a lot of beauty. And you think of it as kind of, I don't know, in Texas, we're just kind of, Lubbock, and it's just old Lubbock and whatever. There's like a honky tonk place and it's the desert. You don't think about these things. But I have to say, my stepdaughter is now going to Texas Tech. And I've been like driving from here to Lubbock a few times. what a beautiful drive. I'm in Austin, and the
Yes.
drive is awesome. And everybody's like, oh, the drive to Lubbock. I'm like, this is like the prettiest drive I've ever seen. And and you get the, the Llano Estacado, and you come into Lubbock, and it's like, and you writing about, the geese coming through, and in Long Walk with Mary, you had a lot of really beautiful reflections on nature. And I think it's just really a gift that you could be writing about a place that nobody really thinks of as particularly remarkable in that way, but that you can look at it and really see it. And you're right about it, because now that you've said it, I see it and I'm like, oh, yeah, look at that. Look what's happening here. It's beautiful. It's so
Thank you. That is so nice.
well, you're a great Orthodox writer, but you're also like a great voice for Lubbock. Like,
Oh, you should hire me.
put you on the city
Tourism,
website.
yeah, like
exactly.
tourism association.
Right. I mean, you could get like a little side job for them, because it's good. It's an impressive thing.
Well,
But I'll have to check out your Substack for more of that.
I think, no matter where you live, you have to look for the beauty in it. And this, if you've never been to Lubbock, Texas, West Texas, it's flat, it's dusty, it's windy, it's hot, it's dry, and people just roll on through it and they're like, this is so ugly, I don't want to be here. But it really is a place of remarkable beauty if you choose to look for it. And it's so interesting in terms of the canyon systems that we have, and the history that we have, and the geology, and the strength. The place that we live up here is the top of what was once a mountain. If you imagine glaciers coming through and shearing off the tops of mountains, that's what the Llano Estacado is. And to me, that just is mind blowing. I just find, natural landscapes and their histories just completely fascinating. And so, there's a lot of problems in this area. There's a lot of ecological problems. We won't get into all of that, but there's beautiful sunsets and very interesting wildlife. And as long as we're here, I'm going to try to find the beauty in it. And I know that's not an easy thing to do, and people live all over the world and may think that their corner is not beautiful, but I bet there is something beautiful about where they live. I think Austin is beautiful.
But everybody thinks Austin's beautiful, right? Like, everybody's like, oh, but it's true that like people,
it is though.
You sort of listen to the prevailing attitude about a place, and you go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really is important, as you say, to really look carefully and lovingly at the place where you are, because that's where you are. That's where you're stuck. Like, be stuck in a place that's beautiful. Why not? Everywhere actually is beautiful if you know how to look for it.
Yes. And it's beautiful to God, even if mankind might not make it or keep it beautiful. It is part of his creation. And it's our job to honor that and to recognize that, I think, especially with children. I try with Rex, our son, to always point out the birds, the animals, the plants, the mammals, because I know he may not want to be here. I mean, who knows where he's going to go? Who knows what his life is going to result in? Right. But I want him to understand and notice where we are now, that this is his home, and these are the characteristics of his home, and these are the things that God made about his home, and they are his. They belong to him. And so if we have that attitude about where we live, no matter where we live, that tree, that sparrow, that dog in the alley, that grassland, whatever it is, that is yours. Once you name it and once you notice it, you claim it. It becomes part of your experience. And so, that was the vocation that Adam and Eve had in the garden, was to name and to cultivate. And it's still our vocation, name and cultivate. So that's just how I look at it. Now, that might be a coping mechanism too.
Nothing wrong with a good coping mechanism. That's a good thing to have. I grew up in Napa Valley, which is very beautiful. Yes. And I lived around like the San Francisco Bay Area, lovely. And then I moved to Dallas, and it was like flat, and there are no mountains, there's no ocean, there's no skiing, but I did really love it, and I thought it was very beautiful, and I thought it was wonderful. And now I've moved away, and I go back and I think, what was it that I loved? But it's so important, right? To look on things with loving eyes and to appreciate what God has done. And as you say, it's not God who messed things up. It's us usually, but
Yes,
to be able to look at it and appreciate it, it has so much to do with just being able to enjoy yourself, right? Because we can't always live you can't necessarily buy a house in Napa these days, right? Like back in the day, it wasn't expensive, but now, you
right,
can be a multimillionaire if you're going to buy a place there.
exactly.
So and jobs and families, and we have reasons to be where we are, and it's beautiful.
And
But
that's ultimately too what the message of my children's book coming out is that there is beauty and there is value in what you choose to see because God imbued beauty and value into all of his creation. And so I
wow,
know your appetite's really whetted now for this.
I know. Well, you're going to have to come back when it comes out. Then you'll come back, and we'll
Yes,
just do a short segment. We'll be like, okay, everybody, remember that book? Here's the
right.
title, and here's where you can get it.
Here's
And
what
so
all the
I'm going
things.
to want to know about it. But no, I think it's really a beautiful idea, the sort of name it and claim it idea that it becomes part of you. I'm thinking about, the landscape where I was when I was a kid, coming back there now, I often feel like the phrase that always hits me is like, that's the landscape of my heart. Like that's
Mhm.
that matters. Like because I grew up there, that
Yeah.
land is different to me than
Yeah.
other land. And in different places in the world, I'll see land that looks like that and feel something for it, right? And so
Yes.
it's an interesting thought. We don't think a lot about what it means to be rooted to these things and how it's really because God has gifted it to us. He's given
Yeah.
us dominion and he's offered us this. There's so much like that in our lives that is just really meaningful and beautiful. And we kind of look right past it and get
Yeah.
on to the next thing, and we don't notice and we don't see like just what beauty he has put around us.
Yeah. Or you think I'm just going to be here for a little while, and so I don't need to pay attention to it. Famous last words from 2 decades ago.
Right.
Here we are, or at least I can't speak for my husband, but I'm sure that thought has crossed his mind a time or two because he's from the Dallas area. And so he ended up out here in West Texas with a West Texas girl. And um, God bless him. He sees, I think, the beauty of it now, and he appreciates it now in a way that he might not have when he was a college student and perhaps thought he was just passing through. But yeah, I think that's just our responsibility. And I think God will comfort us in that, especially if you find yourself in a place in life for a while and you're like, "Ugh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be looking at this view out this window." God knows that, especially if you tell him that. And if you start looking for the good things there, and looking for beauty and asking him to reveal his beauty to you, beauty with a capital B, he's going to do it. He's going to help you in that endeavor. And so I just feel very grateful in that he's given that to me in abundance, and I'm able to maybe do something with it. That's good.
I mean, I think that's, we all have different gifts, and that is definitely one of your gifts
Oh,
is
well,
being
thank
able to
you.
see that and express it and bring it alive to other people. And do you find yourself doing that, not just with like landscape and geography, but with people, like with the people you know?
Oh,
Sort of, because
yeah.
there's also that thing about like you're stuck in a spot, you might be stuck with people that you maybe aren't excited about or didn't want to be stuck with or whatever. Like, I don't know, do you think that does that apply to people as well?
Well, I think it has to, right? Because we are supposed to remember and see the icon of God in every person's
Right.
face, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've seen it drifting around the internet, and I don't know if it's correct, but um, was it somebody said, or some quote said that Saint John of Damascus said that the entire creation is an icon of the face of God. That makes sense, right? Sounds like something he'd
Right.
say.
It is. I
I
think it
haven't
is.
found
I
that
think it's
source, but
real.
it sounds like
I
him.
think it's real.
Um,
Sometimes they're not, but that one I think is real.
yeah, but that's also our job as Orthodox Christians is to see the icon of Christ in every single face that we meet, and if we can encounter humanity in that way, that helps ease up those maybe tenuous relationships or interactions a little bit. But it's hard. It's hard.
It is. It is, but it's so worth it, right? Like just that little bit of extra effort just
Yeah,
makes life so much better, so much
yeah.
more beautiful. lets you appreciate things that really are gifts and that really are there. Beauty is
Yes.
already around us, right? Like
Yes.
we're not inventing it. We're just noticing.
Right. Yeah. We're just noticing it. And by noticing it, we give it dignity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. I love talking to you, Brandi. So overall, you're happy, right? You're raising your jujitsu loving chopper son. You're
Yep.
doing well.
Yes. Yes. We're doing well. Yeah.
And your husband's a deacon now. That's new, right? That's like 2 years, 1 year?
Yes. So he was ordained a deacon at our little parish here in Lubbock 2-3 years ago. Yes, almost 3 years ago. It's a different realm being in the clergy, especially at a small, much beloved parish where there is a lot going on, and you are kind of the intermediary for a lot of different voices. And because our parish is smaller, and our priest, he helps with another parish in another town, there's just a lot of responsibility, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different, you know. It's a hard job. It's a hard job. One that he does very well, and I won't speak for him, but I know that it's a challenge because he has a full-time job during the week. He's not a full-time paid deacon. He just does it on, you know, when he can for what services he can attend. And so, and his full-time job during the week is, he is a crimes against children detective here in Lubbock.
Oh,
so he investigates all the
jobs.
Yeah, all the broken babies and child assault, and we just brought it down way low. But that's what he does during the week.
Someone doing that, right? And thank God the person doing that has this like spiritual treasury to sort of keep himself going, because that's a hard job.
Yeah, it's a hard job. We have conversations that most people don't have conversations about. And so, but he's very good at it. He's very, very well suited to it. He is a really hard worker. He does a lot. He does a whole lot. So during the week, and then when he can on the weekends. So
right, it's a
busy.
lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. My gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So well, you guys are busy then. So there you go. I'm so happy to be seeing you, Brandi. I'm so excited. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm excited about your book. So you come back and we'll do like a little segment. We'll be like, by the way, follow up on Brandi's book.
I would love to.
And we Unless you guys guess what the book is.
Right.
Maybe we'll figure it out. 7th century
saint, Northern England.
Evangelism, bishopric. Can't be that many 7th century saints in Britain. We'll have to look at it. But
yeah. So and then we could talk actually just candidly about it, and maybe children's literature and all of that stuff would be wonderful.
Sounds good. I like it. I like any excuse to hang out with you. That sounds good.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you.